Japan 2026, where Formula One boldly asked the question, what if we made the cars slower, removed the racing, and replaced it with battery management and vibes? Because nothing says elite motorsport like lifting, coasting, watching the battery gauge, and watching one team disappear into the distance like they've got cheat codes turned on. So if you enjoy strategic energy saving, suspicious dominance, and commentary trying to convince you this is thrilling, you're in the right place. This is going to be a right mess. This is parody, it's satire, it's opinion, sharpened, seasoned, and served with dry Aussie sarcasm. If that makes you uncomfortable, there are plenty of very safe, approved broadcasts available. If you're here for cheeky observations and calling it how it looks, welcome aboard. Konnichiwa, PK Koala here, filling in for my Papaya tragic cousin who's currently convinced he personally jinxed his favourite driver. Back-to-back DNS? A rare achievement not seen since Bruce McLaren was doing it the hard way nearly 60 years ago. Only this time, not bad luck, not driver error, just aero components mysteriously failing on every car, except the arrow one. What do you reckon are the odds of that? We're back in Japan, land of the rising sun, which is exactly how the British audience are experiencing this race. Sunrise, confusion, and regret. Meanwhile in Australia, perfect afternoon slot. Cold drink, snacks ready, shorts and sumo safety boots on, and optimism slowly dying. Practice gave us that dangerous thing, hope. Oscar-topping P2 tidy, controlled, fast. And for a brief, beautiful moment, you think, maybe we've actually got a fight this weekend. And then P3 happened. The arrows stopped sandbagging. Kimi fastest, by 0.2 to George, and nearly a second to the rest of the grid. Yep, a second. That's not a gap. At that point, it's no longer form or confidence. That's a different category. And we're still being told they're not showing everything yet. Now, Lando's weekend. Hydraulics issue first. Then, battery failure. Now, hydraulics, that's apparently arrow-supplied components. Already not ideal. But the battery, that's critical. Only 3 energy stores allowed for the season. 3. And we're casually binning one in race 3. Confidence-inspiring stuff. Toto gets asked about customer teams struggling. His answer, the works team builds the car around the power unit. Customer teams have to adapt their chassis to fit it. Sounds reasonable. Until you think about it for more than 3 seconds. So every customer team is struggling, but the supplier is perfect. That's not an explanation, that's a PR deflection with an Austrian accent. Because if multiple teams are having different failures, all tied to the same supplier's components, then maybe, just maybe, the issue isn't how they're fitting it, it's what they were given to begin with. After 2 races of drivers doing power-saving cosplay down the straights, fans weren't thrilled. So the FIA stepped in and made changes, just for qualifying. Less energy harvesting, which sounds good until you realize what that actually means. Less energy recovered means less deployment, means slower laps and even more saving. So now instead of lifting and coasting strategically, they're just slow everywhere. Outstanding. And the team least reliant on battery gets an even bigger advantage. And guess which team that just happens to be? Yep, the Arrows. So congratulations, we've successfully made the problem worse. We've replaced visible boredom with invisible boredom. Yep, we've solved boredom by making it slower so it lasts even longer. Pure, unadulterated bollocks. Smug George whinging about oversteer, and for once not in the usual poetic British tragedy tone. This one actually looked real. Meanwhile, Kimi is strutting around like a bloke who's already picked his championship trophy shelf. Oscar and Charles showing flashes of brilliance. Actual racing drivers doing actual driving. Ollie Bear, sadly, a massive battery drain, out in Q1. Yeah, nothing says elite motorsport like being eliminated by energy accounting. We're told with breathless enthusiasm that the racing is closer this year. Yeah, right. The only thing close is the BS. There's only 2.5 seconds between P1 and P15! Only? Last year it was hundredths. Now it's seconds. That's not closer racing. That's a polite way of saying there are 2 different competitions happening. And then the OTT Arvid hype because he got P9? But the commentary team is acting like he just cured jet lag. Why? Because he's British? Because he fits the narrative? Or is it because he knocked Max out of quali? We all know how the sheep team despise Max, so tick, tick, tick. Meanwhile, Max is in a car that doesn't turn and doesn't grip, and occasionally feels like it's trying to retire itself. Sadly, another Q2 exit. And honestly, our hopes of seeing him in a proper car again are dissolving faster than a slushie in a hot Aussie car park. Kimi on pole. Again, even with a big lockup into the final sector, he was still fastest by 2/10. Meanwhile, Charles has a tiny slide that loses front row. So let's recap. Small mistake in non-arrow car, huge loss. Big mistake in arrow car, no difference. Sure, makes perfect sense. He's just improved so much as a driver. Yes, overnight apparently. It's the confidence from his first win. More like confidence that comes from having a second a lap faster car. Nothing suspicious at all. Oscar P3 flawless lap, still miles off. Lando P5 looking like we all feel, slightly traumatized. Charles has an uncharacteristic sweary rant because he really hates these new cars because they don't allow real racing. Honestly, I cannot stand this qualifying. It's a joke. I go faster in corners, throttle earlier, for sake, I'm losing everything in the straight. And honestly, Charles, we feel the same. This isn't the closer racing we wanted. The racing we wanted could have been achieved with the current active aeros, mandated smaller cars and more powerful engines that are not reliant on batteries. But they had to go and complicate things. So now that's Max, Lando, Charles, and Carlos, all real racers who all openly despise these cars. And other drivers like Lewis Legend are really struggling to find anything positive at all. The Sheep team tell us to stay up for the race.
It's going to be thrilling!
They declare. With a car that's nearly a second a lap faster? Thrilling? Right. Lights out and Oscar nails it. Straight into P1. Charles is also right there. Lando even pulls off a proper start that includes a fantastic pass on George, on the outside, of course. But lucky it was George, not Max. Kimi drops 4 places, and for a moment, you think, hang on, we've got a race here. Then lap 2 happens. Kimi breezes past like everyone else is in eco mode. Because they are.
Brilliant racecraft!
Mate, he drove past in a straight line like he had DRS on permanently. Lando holds Kimi off briefly, which actually tells you more about Kimi than the coverage ever will. Kimi's wheel-to-wheel or just a massive power advantage? But eventually, power wins. Because in this era of arrow withholding, it always does. Oscar is leading the race, but coverage? Kimi, and wait, yes, more Kimi. Oscar might as well be participating from home. In fact, the coverage spends more time on Kimi than the other 21 drivers combined. It appears the broadcast has chosen their new predetermined champ. And yes, they did the same thing last year with Lando, their previous predetermined champ. It's all about the focus on their chosen protagonist to the exclusion of the inconveniently better drivers. So we forget the other drivers exist. Remember how that worked out for Lando? Persistent boos and the universal belief that he didn't earn or deserve the trophy. George closes in. Not because Oscar made a mistake, but because George's car has significantly more pace, and yes, we mean the car, not the driver. George sends it past like Oscar's running low battery mode. Oscar fights back. Brilliant. But you can already see, this isn't sustainable. Oscar wants to stay out. It's too early for a one-stop and he is making time, extending the gap to George, so that makes sense, right? But McLando being McLando, box him anyway, right into traffic. Onto hards, which neither Papaya has used yet, loses nearly a second a lap. George pits a couple of laps later, then safety car. Kimi pits under safety car, discounted stop, takes the lead.
Unbelievable!
Yes, George, we agree. That safety car wasn't random. Safety car was a result of Oliver's race ending in the barriers with a very heavy impact, 50G. After avoiding Colapinata's car, which suddenly lost 45 kilometers per hour due to power issues, the incident wasn't the fault of either driver, but 100% due to a problem that was exactly what drivers warned about pre-season. This isn't racing incident territory. This isn't unlucky. This is a serious design risk, and it needs fixing immediately, not waiting until July, or even next year, as has also been suggested. Restart. Kimi pulls 1.8 seconds in 2 laps. No mistakes from Oscar. No tyre drop-off. Just raw power difference. Gap steadily ticks up like a digital counter. 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5. A reminder, this isn't a battle. It's a demonstration. About as real as a Harlem Globetrotters basketball game.
Incredible performance! Such driver dominance!
But here's the reality. Oscar wasn't chasing, he wasn't attacking, he was managing. Managing the gap back to Charles, because Snake had pitted him too early. Again. which meant tyre life was now a suggestion, not a strategy. And Oscar is smart. He knows. He didn't have the pace to catch Kimi, and he definitely didn't have the car to stay with him. So, he does what elite drivers do. He manages the gap. Kimi, on the other hand? Oh no, Kimi was pushing. Hard. Pushing so hard that even Bono stepped in with the polite version of, "Mate, maybe don't. We need to look after the car, bring it home."
No!
Translation? You've already won. Stop trying to prove a point. Please don't break the rocket ship. And what does Kimi do? Ignores it and pushes harder, making the unfair discrepancy between the Arrow car and the customer cars even more obvious. Now the commentary? Absolutely loving it.
This is what makes him special. This is what champions do. This is why he's the next Max.
Because apparently, ignoring your engineer while driving the fastest car by a mile is now a desirable personality trait. But here's the bit they don't mention. Even while pushing, even with a car that's nearly a second a lap faster, Kimi only pulls out about 13 seconds over 26 laps. 13. Which means he's actually gaining less than the car advantage suggests, on a driver who isn't even pushing. So no, that gap doesn't scream generational talent. It quietly whispers, that's the car. Then we're watching poor Max trying to catch up to pass Pierre Fox. We imagine him thinking, my car is so bad I can't even battle an Alpa now. All the while, the commentators are still trying to make us believe that Kimi is the new Max. The difference? Kimi needs the best car by miles to be competitive. Max just needs a functional car. They are not the same. Kimi is the new benchmark. These cars aren't real racing cars. We cannot push. It hurts your soul when you see your speed dropping so much.
The more you push, the slower you go.
Let's find more pace. Very exciting racing. Two of these things are not like the others. Kimi wins, but doesn't even exceed the car advantage margin. That tells you everything. Oscar P2, controlled, composed, clinical. Driver of the day, despite being mostly invisible in coverage. Charles P3, elite as always. Oscar finally gets airtime. Turns out when we start these things, we're pretty good. Perfect, dry, precise, devastating. That right there is elite Aussie humour. No performance, just truth. Oscar and Charles chatting. Kimi steps in, interrupts, cuts Oscar off, so the conversation shifts. Oscar is quietly edged out. Kimi turns his back on Oscar to carry on a conversation with Charles, who looked uncomfortable with Kimi's rudeness. Oscar quietly sits back, intentionally excluded by Kimi. Not dramatic, just telling. Sometimes it's the small moments that show you who people are, and this moment reflects poorly on Kimi. Charles gets big cheers. Oscar gets huge cheers and kangaroos everywhere. Kimi gets, well, let's call it managed enthusiasm. Apparently, the broadcast learned their lesson with last year's persistent booing from fans. And it seems that fans have already sniffed out another predetermined champion and another scripted outcome. So the broadcast appeared to use canned cheers to cover the slowly growing boos. Papaya verdict. This wasn't a legendary drive, a generational performance, a breakout moment. This was a dominant car, a compromised field, and a narrative working overtime. And fans, they're not buying it. If Formula One wants excitement, unpredictability, actual racing, then this isn't it. So, Oscar gets driver of the day. Yeah, even without winning. Even after the usual suspects tried to politely nudge everyone toward Kimi as the correct choice. Cute effort, didn't stick. See, the thing about Oscar is, he's a bit more popular than people like to admit, which makes the whole sheep media vibe a bit confusing. Like, what is it? Colonial hangover? Still can't quite handle an Aussie doing well unless he's apologizing for it. Because if you actually step outside the bubble for 5 seconds, have a scroll, maybe, you'll notice something. People really like the bloke. And it's not complicated. He's not out there doing backflips or pulling stupid TikTok poses. No carry on, no cringe. Just that very dry, very Aussie, yeah, nah, that'll do energy. He's sharp, understated. And when things went sideways last year with McLaren, proper sideways, he didn't chuck a tantrum. Took it on the chin, a lot of class, moved on. You can't fake that. And people notice. So now, he's the underdog. And everyone loves an underdog, especially one who probably shouldn't be one in the first place. Which brings me to a thought for the FIA and the Liberarity narrative department. If you're keen on a storyline, here's a decent one. Oscar, double DNS to start the season. The first in almost 60 years, comes back, wins the whole thing. Biggest comeback in F1 history. first driver ever to take a title after a double DNS, has spent 3 seasons being the ultimate team player. Perhaps a little too much, forced to help the declared Lando era happen, while Fat Rat constantly undermined him. You get the "it's his turn" angle that they attempted with George, but you get the record-breaking headline that they are currently pushing with History Boy. And, minor detail, it's actually a story people already care about. Funny that. If you enjoyed the chaos, the sarcasm, or just needed someone else to say what you're thinking, give it a like and subscribe for more Papaya Koala nonsense. And join the Koala crew, where we call it exactly how it looks. You can also now officially join via Buy Me a Coffee. Link below. Completely fair strategy call from Snake and Nope, I really can't finish that sentence.